Greetings, everyone. Nikki Brown here. No matter where you are and no matter what part of the world you're in, I hope that you're having a good day. So, if you're in your bedroom, if you're at work, if you're at the park, if you're in the car, no matter where you are, and if you're in Australia, if you're in England, if you're in Asia, if you're in Africa, no matter what part of the world you're in, I hope that when this message reaches you, you are having a good day and that you feel inspired because that is the purpose of this message. So, I was guided to do this message today. Not really sure why, but I feel like it's going to help someone. So, I'm basically going to share my story. And I'm going to do my best to keep it short, but at the same time be detailed so that well, number one, you can get to know me better, and number two, you can understand the mentality that it takes to overcome obstacles, right? So it's not really about me, it is about overcoming and becoming, right? And again, willfully, this will inspire you or someone you know if you decide to share with someone. This is not going to be like, one of those well edited graphics popping here and there type of video. It's just going to be um, rich auntie talk. So I'm comfortably sitting on my sofa. The pillows are not fluffed. I have my throw across my legs because I am wearing a nightgown. So it's actually a dress that I wear as a nightgown. How about that? Because that's why I bought it to wear it as a nightgown. Because I think it's cute as a nightgown, right? Anyway, so I think I may call this my introduction to entrepreneurship, which took place in 2009. And if I think about it, I'll insert a picture. Let me see. Oh, it's in my phone. What I did is order a big calabash of shea butter. So it was about this big around. The calabash was about that deep. It was full of shea butter, and then the shea butter was like over the top. If you've ever seen a calabash of shea butter, then you know what I'm talking about. And I bought some really inexpensive plastic containers, the 8-ounce ones, and I was selling those for $5. That was in 2009. Attempted to start businesses with other people prior to that, but you know, those didn't work out. So here I am. I'm like, okay. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, someone was supposed to do the shea butter with me, but that didn't work out either. So I just ended up doing it on my own. And again, selling small containers, 8-ounce containers of shea butter, just raw shea butter, for $5. I didn't really aggressively push it. I think I may have went to a flea market once and set up a table. I don't even remember, but it was mainly to like family and friends, people who know I had it. I would, give, you know, sell them a container of shea butter, or give them some shea butter, and yeah. So in the meantime, I started um, wearing more fragrance oils and wasn't doing essential oils yet. It was fragrance oils. But let me go back a little bit. In 2008, and I know I shared this story before. In 2008, one of my friends said we were on our way back from New Orleans, a road trip from New Orleans back to North Carolina. And one of my friends said, "You know, soap is made out of roadkill." And I was like, "Roadkill?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's made out of roadkill." And then my other friend chimed in because it was four of us. It was like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." But so they started talking about soap being made out of roadkill. And I was like, I've been a vegetarian since 2001. So I was like, well, if I'm not eating meat, I certainly don't want meat inside my body because I had no idea. Soap is not technically made out of roadkill, but it's made out of animal fat. And they typically use pig fat or beef fat. They call it either beef tallow or just tallow. And usually, if it's just called tallow, it's pork fat. So, I was, again, I was like, well, if I don't eat meat, I certainly don't want the meat in my body because the skin is the largest organ on the body. So, whatever we put on our skin gets absorbed into our skin and our bloodstream. So I was like, okay. So in 2008, I switched to all natural soaps. And then in 2009, I started selling the shea butter. All natural soaps, depending on what kind you buy, there's a brand, not anymore. Back then in 2008, there was a brand called Kirk's. If it's not Kirkland, because Kirkland is Costco. It's called Kirk's, and you could buy a bar of coconut oil soap for $1. Right? People weren't as big on the all natural soaps at that time. Um, Not like now, not like in 2022. um, I think it's still on the lower end. I haven't seen it in a while. Not that I've looked for it because I've been making my own products for years. Well, making and selling products for years. Um, but the last time I saw it was a couple years ago. I don't remember if it was on the Walgreens, CVS. I don't remember, but they no longer sell like the single bars. It's a 3 or a 4 pack, and I want to say it was like $4 and some change. Don't quote me on that, but that was the last time I saw it. I actually did buy I did buy it because I think I was out. I think I was away from home, and so I ended up buying it just to make sure I didn't run out of soap. Anyway, um, so I'm selling the shea butter. I'm using the natural soap. I'm using the natural products, right? And I realized that shea butter alone was not doing anything for my skin. I have really dry skin. So I came up with a formula, a recipe. And I created that recipe and I realized I was like, wow, this works really great for my dry skin. And my whole family has this dry skin. So I was like, well, I know that if it works for me, it's going to work for them. I can't wait to share this with everybody, right? And so in 2014, oh, and also I kept getting compliments on how good I smell. So in 2014, I decided to turn it into a business. So I started adding fragrance oils into the now what I call body butter, and I started selling that. Then for medicinal purposes, I started incorporating essential oils. And once I started adding the essential oils, so I'm, busy making products, not really eating, so I lost a bunch of weight. Not eating, not on purpose, but I would be so busy filling orders and creating new recipes that the whole day would go by and it's 5 o'clock and I realized I hadn't eaten yet. Now at the same time, at I wasn't generating enough revenue in my business. So there were some days where I didn't have any food, but I just used those times to fast. So um, there were a couple times where I was intentionally fasting, and there were some times when I was accidentally fasting. So when you go for uh, like say 12 to 16 hours without eating intentionally, they call that intermittent fasting. So I was intermittently fasting and I didn't know that that's what I was doing. Anyway, um I'm making products, and so I would have a lot of I would wear gloves, but I would also sometimes just use my bare hands. And I would have a lot of, say, body butter on my hands. And so I started rubbing them on my legs or on my arms because I didn't want to waste it, right? Or even on my feet. And I had a huge scar on the back of my leg that was probably about that long. It was on the back of my calf, and it was from my eczema. So what happens is eczema shows up differently for everybody, but when you have eczema and you scratch, you can scratch to the point of bruising the skin, or you can scratch where you have really deep scratches in the skin. So two particular incidents. Again, I'm busy making product, filling orders, and I realized all of a sudden this bruise on the back of my leg that was about this long was gone, and I was no longer itching. Now, I was drinking more water, and again, I was intermittently fasting at the same time. But that does, but the bruise, the discoloration was gone, right? People like to downplay it, like, oh, it was probably because you were drinking water. No, the body butter had a lot to do with it as well. Because then eventually I started selling soap, and I had other people tell me, oh, I had skin tags. My skin tags went away. Oh, I think your soap helped me go to sleep. Um, and, oh, I have dark armpits. Oh, just different things that people were sharing with me. And I was like, okay, this stuff really works. And again, I wanted to share with other people. So a few members of my family supported, and they did buy some product. Um, but then I had some that tried to compete with me. And in my mind, I was like, okay, this is great. Let's turn this into a family business. Help me do this, help me do that. But they didn't see it that way. They saw it like, oh, I don't want you to have more than me. And so, again, what I'm seeing as let's do this together, they saw it as I'm not helping you get more than me. So, everybody's mentality or mindset is different. So, anyway, I was vending, attending different vending events, setting up tables, went to the flea market or the farmer's market, and, I was selling products. I was doing well, had business cards made, but it wasn't enough to support my expenses. So I did have to go to work. So at one point, I was working for the cable company. I was a volunteer GED instructor, um, teaching what they call at-risk youth. Uh, their GED, how to pass the GED. So, okay, let me go back a little bit. What else was I doing? Oh, I was also a substitute teacher, and I was running my business. So I was basically doing 4 things at one time by myself. So in 2010, I graduated with my bachelor's degree in English. And then in 2012, I graduated with a master's degree in higher education, college teaching and learning. So that's when I started doing the GED instructor to, again, what they call at-risk youth. And I actually loved it, and the students loved me. They said they were that I was the only teacher they felt cared, right? So that made me feel good. However, at the time, so maybe in 2009 or 2010, I bought a 2009, no, not a 2000. a 1998 Honda Accord. Paid cash for it, like $2,600 or something like that. I actually bought a 1991 Toyota Camry at the same time. $1,200 paid cash for that. And I gave that to my son, and that's another story. But the Honda I had from, like, say, I think it was 2010. I had it from like 2010 to 2015, if I'm not mistaken. In 2011, the transmission went, had it rebuilt, and so in 2015, the transmission went again. And at that point, I didn't have the funds to repair it. The car sat for a long time because I really didn't want to give it up. And then this guy contacted me. He contacted me 3 times. He said, I was getting ready to give up on you because but that was a lesson in letting go, right? Um, it was time for me to move on and have better, right? So that was a turning point. But I didn't have a car, and again, I didn't have the resources to get that car fixed, and so I didn't have the resources to get another car because I prefer to pay cash for cars, right? So that was a mental dilemma. At the same time, um, I was just relying upon my business income, which, like I said, wasn't enough to support my expenses. And so it was like a year and a half without a car. Then, you know, when you change your mindset, things in your life start to change. So all of a sudden, I got the funds to buy a car. So I bought a Lincoln MKZ. Paid like $6,000. I think $6,800. The price tag was $72. I paid like $6,800 for it, and decided to drive for Uber. So I'm running my business and I'm driving for Uber. It was a black Lincoln MKZ because I looked at the list of Uber black cars, and that was on the Lincoln MKZ was on the list, and it was the least expensive out of everything on the list. So that's what I went for. It's either that or a Chrysler 300. And Chrysler 300, no offense, Chrysler. So I get the Lincoln in 2016, again, after being without a car for a year and a half. Um, During that time, business slowed down because I'm not able to attend vending events um, and do what I would normally do. So I'm getting back in the groove of things now. I have a vehicle again, and I still have some consistent customers though. Still have some people who are buying from me. Like I said, relatives, at that point tried to start doing what I was doing, thinking that it was easy, and it didn't work out for them. Instead of working with me so we can do it together, because again, they didn't understand that this is a family business. They didn't understand me saying this is a family business, let's do it together. They saw it as like we were on the street competing, selling drugs or something, and I had white tops and they had black tops. So, it was more of a competition to them um, than us doing this together as a family so that we can all benefit. Um, so I'm running my business and I'm Uber driving. That worked out for a while. Then I started going back to, then I registered with People Ready, which is like a temporary agency. You get work the same day and you get paid the same day. So I started working for Sky Chefs in the freezer, providing the airline and airport food. And my body didn't like that freezer. So that didn't last so long. But then I don't think, I'm not sure if I got another assignment at that point. At the same time, the housing market in Raleigh, I was in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time, the housing market changed. So I was trying to find an apartment, and at that point, everything was out of my price range. Now, fast forward to 2003, I left New Jersey because New Jersey was becoming very expensive. And I felt that my money could go further in the South. So now I've been in the South from 2000 since 2003. I moved back home in 2011 to 2013. That didn't work out, so I came back to North Carolina. So here we go, 2018. The housing market has changed. So from 2016 to 2018, I'm Uber driving and running my business. But again, I lost some customers because I wasn't able to keep up. Also, because I wasn't generating enough revenue and I wasn't able to buy everything in bulk, sometimes when people would place an order, I had to order whatever they needed and then make it, which made my shipping delayed. So a few people complained about, they didn't get their packages, within a timely manner, which I personally take responsibility for because, again, I was trying to do everything by myself and it wasn't easy. Also, with shipping through the post office, um, depending on what time of year it is, the post office is either hot or cold, extremely hot or extremely cold. So in the summertime, the body butter would melt. And by the time the customer got it, it wasn't necessarily the same consistency as it was when it left production. Um, and in the winter, it would freeze or get cold. And when it's cold, it crystallizes. So it would have little hard crystallized pieces in it. And although I was whipping it, it still wasn't. I don't put any preservatives or additives in my products because I like that they're all natural. But again, with shipping, people are used to consistency. And it's not that they weren't consistent, but they weren't consistent, if that makes sense. Because if it leaves my production kitchen whipped and it gets to the customer liquefied, people don't understand, like how if you buy a juice and the natural parts of the juice sink to the bottom, so you have to shake it up. It's kind of the same principle. If you put it in the refrigerator, it'll solidify, but it's still not going to be that whipped consistency. It may be soft, but then even one time somebody said that it was hard once they got it. So there was that. I really wanted to hire a chemist, but I wasn't able to do so at that point. So anyway, 2016 to 2018, I'm Uber driving and the housing market changed. So now I don't know where I'm going to go because the apartment complex that I lived in, uh, she was going up $100 on my rent. And I was already um, doing my best to keep up with what the rent already was. So for it to go up another $100, it really wasn't in the budget for me. So again, our mindset changes things. So I was just packing my stuff and I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just putting my stuff in storage, but I don't know where I'm going yet. Like literally, like I moved. Okay, so January 30th, I needed to be out, or I think or January 31st. So January 31st, I'm moving my stuff in storage. My birthday is February 2nd. So I'm moving my stuff in storage. Again, not knowing where I'm going. And as I'm moving my stuff in storage, my grandmother calls and says, "Oh, do you want to go to Atlanta?" And I was like, "Sure." So I end up moving to Atlanta. So on my birthday, because I think on the first I spent the night at my friend's house. So moved my stuff in 31st, spent the night at my friend's house who lives in North Carolina, left her house, and on my birthday drove to Atlanta. I was so excited, right? This is something new. I'm like, oh, like Atlanta's the chocolate city, people have businesses, da 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 da. And all that is true. And you do have the ability to be successful. But at the same time, these are different family members, and I thought that they were going to help me in a different way. But you have some people who want you to do what they want you to do the way that you want them to do it. Again, I've always give compliments on the products that I make. People love the products, they think that they work great. However, some people are jealous and envious. And instead of helping, they will even try to sabotage or get you to self sabotage. Or again, they'll be willing to help you, but you have to do it the way they want you to do it. And if you're not willing to do that, they get upset. So that's kind of what I dealt with. Oh, your products are good was one family member, and then another family member, thinking that they're whispering to another family member talking behind my back. Oh, I'm not buying none of her stuff. And the other family member's like, well, why not? I don't know. I'm just not buying none of that stuff. So some people have very supportive family members that they're hands in, hands on. They're going to help get it done. They're going to help buy the building, find the building, make the stuff to go into the building, or help whatever the business is that they're doing. You be the secretary, do the paperwork, go to the bank. They're going to help do all those things. But then you have other people who have family members that they're not going to do anything at all. However, if and when you become successful, they'll be there with their hand out asking you for money. And they might even say, oh, remember that one time I bought something from you? Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So I get to Atlanta, I hit the ground running. First weekend here, I met my friend who owns the bookstore. I started putting my products in there. And that worked out well for a while. But he ended up changing computer systems, so some of my money got lost, and we're still friends. That's not a problem. Um, but again, financially, I still wasn't able to keep up with some of the demand. And that's bottles. That's the products because the products that I make, the ingredients are not there. They cost. So, it would be sometimes a decision, well, do I buy food to eat, or do I buy some bottles to sell some product? And there were times when I would buy bottles to sell product and I was hungry. So it was constantly a balancing act. And again, I'm still doing this by myself. And so although, stylists would say, oh, I love your shampoo. Barbers, I love your beard oil. But because people weren't ordering consistently enough for me to maintain this business, um, I couldn't keep up with the demand. And it would be like, oh, well, people want you to make this and people want you to make that. And I'm like, well, I got to put gas in my car to even get to you. And once I put gas in my car, then I need to still pay my bills to keep a roof over my head. So anyway, um, had my products in the store. Went to a couple other stores. They said, oh, well, you have to have better labels with a barcode on it. Um, and that's another expense. getting labels made for the products, um, to make them fancier and better for, to sell. Again, you have to hire a graphic artist to make these labels. Not really, but again, it's an expense because you then still have to get the labels printed. It's an added expense. So I start working, um, still vending, trying to work at the same time, and it was working, but it wasn't working. Um, that family basically turned their backs on me, but they didn't realize that I knew that what was going on. So I ended up leaving my family's house. So I'm excited, drove to Atlanta, moved in with my family, thinking they were going to help. That didn't work out. I ended up being homeless for 8 months because I needed to. The environment was very toxic, so I needed to remove myself because my eczema had gotten really bad, and it was my body's way of telling me this is not working for you. So I left there, was homeless for 8 months, was working, wasn't able to vend as much. The Lincoln ended up conking out on me. I had already moved out. They kind of got mad at me and made me move my car because I had already gotten another car, but my car was parked in the driveway. So because they had an attitude with me, I had to move the car. So I just ended up kind of selling the car to a junk place. This is the Lincoln MKZ. And in the meantime, because I needed to do some more healing, and for years I've been saying I'm going to be a life coach. And I know in order for you to be a life coach, you have to be coached. So I decided to, in 2021, I enrolled in a life. So went through different trials and tribulations with the relatives, with the job that I was working on, and end up with sciatica. So in order to help me heal the sciatica, um, I became a vegan. Um, I started doing yoga because the physical therapy wasn't working. The medicine that they gave me wasn't working. I was just doing all different things to heal my body. And so again, becoming a vegan, doing yoga was two of the things. I also started having Reiki done. So 2021, so I got the sciatica April 2021. In June of 2021, I enrolled in a life coaching program, which was 8 months long. Then I finished that January. Also in that January, I took a Reiki certification course. And then in July, I took a yoga certification course. So I've just been on this healing mind, body, soul, spirit journey, and it has been delightful. I'm so thankful and grateful. I've helped so many people, and I would love to help so many more. I am also certified as an anger management specialist, and I have my ordination to do weddings, funerals, and baptisms. And I don't ever say anything to brag. I just say that you can overcome anything. Even when you have families that treat you like Cinderella, like they don't love you, like a stepchild, they're not supportive or encouraging emotionally and mentally. Because even if somebody's buying something from you financially, if your love language is um, random acts of service or words of affirmation, and you're not getting those words of affirmation, no gift in the world is going to satisfy the desires of your heart. um, I do still make my products. I don't really have customers right now because after, so once COVID happened, I really lost customers. So um, I do make jewelry. I have been selling some jewelry. I do still have my website, www.circa2009.com. I also have www.lovetrainingcoach.com, um, where you can find the services that I offer. I also do divination. Um, so I have sprinkles of customers. Right now, I'm working on because it's all about helping people, right? I know that I shared this story because I'm sure someone else may have gone through something similar. Not to just, again, brag or tell my business, but it's like a testimony, and this is going to help someone um, overcome to become. And so that's why I decided to share. I may have left some things out. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to help. I'm losing some memory, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video. But I think I pretty much said everything that I needed to say. No matter what, just keep going. There's going to be obstacles, and those obstacles may look like loved ones, right? But keep going, right? Stay encouraged. If no one else is supporting you, support yourself. Write down what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and practice self-love. One of the first affirmations I ever said was, I love you. And I said that to myself in the mirror. And a tear rolled down, and I realized I didn't love myself as much as I thought I did. So, if you're on a healing journey, again, I hope that this story inspires and encourages you to keep going no matter what, whether you have help or you don't have help. You are the help. Because spiritually, there's always someone around. As always, love y'all. Later. Mwah.